A judge in Texas has cleared the way for Tomi Lahren to find out who leaked some unsavory details about her when she worked at The Blaze. Now, this is all part of a larger lawsuit. Tomi Lahren, of course, is suing The Blaze and Glenn Beck for wrongful termination. Glenn Beck is countersuing, indicating that she was very difficult to work with. And apparently someone, we don't know if it's someone who works at The Blaze, although it seems like it, leaked a story to the Daily Caller that indicated that Tomi Lahren was a really difficult person to work with. Let me give you the details. So the Daily Caller article published late last week claimed Lahren acted like a diva during her employment with The Blaze, insisting she treated staffers with contempt and disdain and even made them heat up her butt warming pad. Now, her lawyer is upset about this and says, hey, there was a non-disparagement order by the judge, and if this individual works at The Blaze, they went against the judge's orders. And so as a result, the judge is saying, all right, Glenn Beck and The Blaze have to hand over emails between staffers and a reporter at the Daily Caller. The reporter at the Daily Caller, Peter Hansen, says, I'm not handing over anything. I will not disclose who my sources are.
So this story is really interesting because it has two different laws that are basically contradicting one another. And it happens from time to time. It's not that frequent, but so it's true. The judge did say, hey, look, we're under court proceedings here and I don't want you guys disparaging one another. And I'm gonna do an official order saying that non-disparagement in public. And then clearly somebody at The Blaze threw Tomi Lahren under a bus by leaking to the Daily Caller, thereby disparaging her. So that would violate the court's order. On the other hand, we have freedom of the press, and that's a constitutional principle that's very, very important. So if you go to a member of the press and go, no, give me your sources, because I think that it might have violated my order in these court proceedings, well, I think that's a bigger problem. And I would say that I would hope that a judge in that case would go, all right, but I can't violate freedom of the press, so I'm not going to try to enforce this. If he actually finds out who did it, you know that the guy could get 6 months in jail. No. If we, by the way, look, I know it's a little different because they're in the middle of a court proceeding and the judge actually made that order. But I mean, if you punish people based on leaks, 3/4 of Washington would be in jail.
Right, I think that it's incredibly important to uphold constitutional rights, and one of those constitutional rights is freedom of the press, right? And so I get it, you don't want people, saying negative things about one another in the middle of court proceedings. I totally understand that. But I would argue that that is a low priority compared to allowing the press to do what it does. And by the way, I think that Tomi Lahren and her lawyer played this component of the lawsuit all wrong. If you don't want people talking about your butt warmer, don't make it a big deal in the middle of this case, right? First of all, I don't even think it's that big of a deal. Was she a diva? Probably, maybe, but who cares, right? That's kind of to be expected. Not saying that anyone who's on air is like that, but I don't know, who cares? But I would want to bury this as much as possible as opposed to making a big deal about it and then making sure that everybody's covering it on their news show. And butt pads, I totally get it, man. Sometimes dudes really crank up the AC and you gotta warm your butt. So
I crank up the AC.
Yeah.
Okay, so look, when the first butt warming story came out, I purposely didn't cover it on the show. Now it's relevant because freedom of the press is involved here, and it's become like a weirdly important national case now. But the reason I didn't cover it in the first place is because it's obvious that they're throwing her under a bus.
Yeah.
And and that's all. The best you had on her was that she wanted butt warmers. Who cares? That's really incredibly minor.
It is. Yeah.
So look, and these leaks happen all the time. Toughen up. That's. I mean, on both sides, right? The guys who are leaking it are petty and that apparently don't really have very good dirt on her, right? And if you're being leaked against, stuff happens. I remember when I was leaving MSNBC, they started leaking my ratings from January. It was June. I'm like, what? But in January, there was all these huge news events. That's why CNN, that was the only one of the few months that CNN beat me in the ratings. By the time it was June, I was doubling CNN on most nights. I was beating CNN and HLN combined. So when I saw in the press that MSNBC management was leaking ratings from 5 months earlier, I'm like, oh, they're coming to get me. Okay, but I didn't sue. I didn't try to put them in prison, right?
Right.
I just told my side of the story, and that's it.
Yeah, I wouldn't even address it, right? I mean, especially if you are gonna be an opinionated woman, regardless of what your ideology is, people are gonna attack you and they're gonna do so viciously. If people accuse me of wanting heated butt warmers or heated butt pads, whatever the hell it is that she's using, I'd be like, okay, that's like probably the mildest accusation I've ever dealt with.
Yeah. No, luckily there aren't divas. We don't get paid well enough here to be divas. Okay, yeah. But if you go to television, and I don't know what they're paying at the Blaze, because the Blaze is named after the amount of money that they're burning. Okay, so I mean they just created this giant bonfire with Glenn Beck and other investors' money. That thing loses so much money, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So who knows? Maybe they overpay over there. But in television, where they do overpay, so many people are divas. All the hosts are like, please, I do declare. So I'm sure that the people on cable news are like, oh, she only had butt warmers.
Probably.
Anyways, all right, we do have a fun poll for you guys. Who's more at fault for the conflict at the Blaze? This is overall, not just for the butt warmer scandal.
Yeah.
But Tomi Lahren for trying to get the spotlight, or Glenn Beck for getting annoyed that she has the spotlight and firing her for having one reasonable position, the pro-choice position. So I don't know which way to go here because she's such a hypocrite. But then on the other hand, he's such a hypocrite. They both want the spotlight. They're both unbearable.
No, I'm gonna vote. I'm gonna vote right now.
Okay, by the way, if you want to vote, tytnetwork.com/blaze, okay? I'm super curious which way you guys are gonna vote. I haven't made up my mind yet.
Really? Oh my God, Glenn Beck is at fault. Are you crazy right now?
Am I crazy right now?
From the very beginning though, like think about it. She gets fired for saying that she's pro-choice, which is ridiculous. She's not allowed to, move in a different direction for even half a second without you losing your mind over it, right? So, and then on top of that, here's what the lawsuit's really about. They are refusing to terminate her contract, but they're also refusing to let her go on air. Now, you know me, I'm not a Tomi Lahren fan. I disagree with her about pretty much everything. So it's not like I want her to be on air, but it doesn't matter what I want. She should be on air, right? If they refuse to terminate her contract, they should at least allow her to continue doing what she's doing without taking her off. And the reason why they do that is so she can't go anywhere else until her contract is finished.
Yeah, that's a corporate media move. That's what MSNBC did to Ashley Banfield. They literally moved her office into a closet, wouldn't let her out of her contract, and wouldn't let her on the air. So it's a super cheesy move. So I hear you, and I think I'm going to vote with you. But there is a big but there. So Tomi Lahren before pretty much seemed to indicate that she was pro-life. And then she goes on The View and says all of a sudden she's pro-choice, playing up to that crowd, probably trying to angle for another job. So Glenn Beck's saying, look, whether you believe him or not, he's like, I don't mind if you're pro-choice. I mind if you're a total liar, right? And pretending to be pro-life at one point, pro-choice at another, depending on where you're trying to go. But in essence, I think you're right that the heart of this matter is Glenn Beck being like, bitter man.
Yeah.
Why is everybody talking about Tomi Lahren and not me? So what's that? She says she's pro-choice. Fire her right away. Don't let her go on air because then she'd compete against me. The real resistance is fighting against Trump and the establishment. Help us get investigative reporters that are going to investigate both of them. tytnetwork.com/go.